Strength standards is a subjective thing. You can go from strength coach to strength coach in the sport. So you can go from one school's strength standards into another school's strength standards. They can be completely different in the exact same sport. So they are subjective, but there are some things that I feel like are more common that you see across the board. And to scale that to a version of, say if you were taking a Division I college athlete all the way to someone who's 30 years old, who's been training for 2-3 years, and all the way down to almost to like middle school athletes as well. Everybody in between that we've kind of seen across the years, from the start of training to when we were training and whatnot, and kind of where it categorizes. So this is separate than if you were to compete in a strength sport. So if you were to compete in Olympic weightlifting or compete in powerlifting, that's going to be its own standard because that is a sport. But the strength standards in relation to having an adequate amount of strength that you can be more versatile. So what I consider strength standard would be the competency of a movement. And the stronger you are, typically the better you can move and make adjustments to movement, and typically along with the level of training. So the stronger you are, more times than not, you've been training longer in general. So if I were to list off some right now, the biggest thing that that can go across the board from functional strength to the applied strength conditioning class would be push-up standards. And what I consider standard push-up would be if you were in a high plank like so, that you can keep your spine from being compromised, so you're not sagging your hips or lifting your hips, and you can bring yourself to the point that your elbows get past 90-degree angles, or that your elbows would poke out from the back of you a little bit. That's what I'm looking at, and come back up without fluctuating in your hips, so having to worm your way up or stick your butt out to drive yourself out. If I were to go off of just simple categories of novice, intermediate, and advanced, for women, I would consider, and this would be unbroken, that you can rattle straight through without having to break this up at all, or having to drop, or having to shake it out, or anything like that. It would be 5 push-ups, 5 and below, on your toes would be my novice category. 10 to 5 would be intermediate, and then 20 plus, that would be advanced as far as muscle endurance. So muscle endurance and muscle strength, it's 2 different things. Kind of works within rep ranges there. And for men, it would be 10 below would be a what I consider a novice. 30 and below would be considered intermediate, and then 50 and below, 50 and above would be what I would consider, advanced. And then the next category, which I feel like decides a lot for the following categories after it, would be pull-ups. Because those are 2 body weight movements, and they both dictate upper body endurance, but they can tell you so much more about the person. And you can see people that look out of shape, that can rattle off push-ups, but it's rare that you see any people that look out of shape that can rattle off pull-ups. So starting, this would be no band and everything like that, being able to come from a dead hang, sitting like from there, and I'm even impartial to chin up as well, just being able to pull your body above the bar. Women, it would be 1 and below. That would I consider novice. Once you can do 1, you can get yourself in the door, because through training, that can get yourself further, but sometimes it takes a while just to get that first one. So 1 and below, consider novice. 3, being able to go 3 without breaking it up, I consider that intermediate. And 5, what I've found and what I ran into as far as dead hang, 5 and above, that's pretty much the breaking point of, once you can do 5 without breaking it up, it's not much further to being able to do 10 without breaking it up as far as dead hang goes. So those would be my categories 1 through 5 as far as novice, intermediate, advanced. For men, it would be 3 and below. Most men, even when they're trying and without much training, can normally get 1, so they'll muscle themselves. It may not look pretty or whatnot, but they'll muscle themselves through 3. The next category would be 7 and below, and then 12 and above. And then why I cut those off at those numbers, this goes the same as far as push-ups. I don't see much reason to go above that. I would probably never schedule a set of 12 pull-ups, because that's just more than enough. Almost the same thing as far as push-ups, just to see your maximum endurance. And most times with any push-up test, it's within a time, because if you're able to do it within a time, you're showing power. So being able to perform a push-up fast shows your power as well. So piggybacking off of that pull-up, the next thing, and these people where they sit as far as categories, say if you're an intermediate or say if you're in advanced, are typically closer to advanced when it comes to bench press, and closer to advanced when it comes to power clean as well. For women, once they're able to get probably an adequate amount of push-ups in, closer to the advanced amount, that's where they start knocking on their door on the opening part of 0.75% of their body weight and below is what I consider adequate upper body strength. As far as 1 rep max bench press, you're at 0.75. And then once you get to 1 times body weight, so just you can lay it down and bench press your body weight, that I consider that advanced strength. And it's not easy to get to for women. It's not all that common, but when it's there, that's a person that you really don't worry about. They have a good competency of movement, that have good upper body strength, and typically those are the same women that can also do a pull-up. For guys, it would be once they can get to 1 time their body weight. So once, like I said, towards the advancement of the advanced side of push-ups, they can bench press their body weight 1 time. And then from there, it's 1.5 times body weight. Like I said, I'm not too concerned about trying to get a 2.5 times body weight, because it's not powerlifting, that's an actual straight sport. But once you get to about 1.5 times body weight, that's more than advanced, depending on the size, because guys are much bigger. So you're looking at it that way. Those same standards for me also apply to power clean. So women, again, 0.75 to 1 times body weight. So once you get to 1.75 times your body weight, you have a good understanding of how to power clean, because you have that competency of movement, what I was talking about. So everything below that, you're still trying to figure it out. And then even though that gap may be larger or smaller, just because 0.25% of your body weight, once you can clean your body weight, you have a pretty great competency of movement, especially so power clean, being able to bring it from the floor to your shoulders, catching it in a quarter squat and whatnot. It's a good understanding of movement. But those are all predicated by the other standards that are above. So that same woman that can power clean 1 times her body weight, more likely than not can do 5 dead hang pull-ups, can bench press 1 times their body weight, can do 20 push-ups without breaking. So it's like they all sort of line up, and this is just through years and years and years of experience of seeing it, whether it been in college or post-grad, and then seeing it from years of, here at FFASC. And the same kind of things sort of apply for guys. So once you can power clean your body weight, the next stop is normally 1.5 times body weight. Since guys are bigger, it's lesser the explored to be able to power clean 1.5 times your body weight, because if you're a 200-pound guy, you got to hit 300-pound clean. But those that are closer to it are already at 1.5 times bench press and can rattle off 12 pull-ups and whatnot. So these are all like in line with those standards. And the last thing, obviously, would be lower body as far as squat. For ladies, it'd be, if I were to have a subcategory for both, it'd be grabbing a 45-pound dumbbell and squatting that 10 times. Because what my brother and I always say is you have to be able to be comfortable using the bar. Bars are 45 pounds, so I can't put a bar on your back unless you feel comfortable putting dumbbell in your hand, something that you can at least easily spill out. And most times people will want to gravitate to a bar because it's kind of an ambiguous number. So most people don't know what the bar weight is, sort of ambiguous. And for a dumbbell, you may not want to see it because 45 seems like a lot as a single mass. But what that tells me, not only as far as lower body strength, that you have upper body strength to be able to control a dumbbell, and also that you're just confident enough to be able to pick up a 45-pound dumbbell, put in a goblet position and squat it. So goblet squat at 45-pound dumbbell for women, all the way up to 1 time body weight squat. And we'll just keep it standard as a back squat. That's what I consider basically novice all the way down, because their squats will look different from day to day. Everything from there, because they'll continue to to switch stands. You'll see wobbling at different points, everything like that. Everything from that to that point, I consider a novice. And then from 1 to 1.75 for me is that stance of, okay, that's someone who's an intermediate, anywhere between there, and then 1.75 is your advanced. Their squat looks exactly the same. They hammer it if it was with no weight to 1 times to 1.75. It's just how much force they're putting in the ground to stand up from there. And the same rules apply as far as the goblet to men. 45 pound dumbbell all the way up to 1.25 as far as squat for men. Again, men are larger, so their standards are different. But 1.25 to 2 times body weight. Normally at 2 times body weight, that person can move pretty athletically. They can jump, all those sorts of things. And I don't necessarily need to categorize it as far as deadlifts go, because typically it's just going to be scaled a little further. So it's a lower body movement. Yes, it's a hinge involved in there, but that's why I'm just looking at these 5, because if you can have control of your upper body in the sense of a clean, being able to retract your shoulder blades, keep your chest up, all that sort of things, and control yourself in a pull-up, more likely not, deadlift's probably the easiest thing for you to do. And that's just driving your feet in the ground, which shows up in a squat. So if I were to categorize it as far as 5 strength standards that we look at, if somebody were to come to a strength and conditioning class or an athlete will walk in here, that's what we're looking at.